Welcome to Entering Entertainment. I'm Maya,
Hello, I'm Alejandro.
and today is a very special day because we're going to be talking about esports. And for the longest time, I didn't know exactly what that industry was all about. But Alejandro here knows so much about it, and thank you so much for being here, Alejandro.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for taking the time. I might know a little too much, I think. That's what I'm afraid of.
Well, we'll just get the gist of it today. But I guess let's just start. Tell me, first of all, a little bit more about your background and kind of how would you explain esports to someone who has no idea what it is?
Yeah, for sure. So my background specifically is a traditional sports athlete kind of background. I played baseball for about 8 years growing up, and that's like kind of where my competitive drive came from. And I also did theater on the side of that at the same
Oh,
time. So I was like an athlete, but also a theater kid at the same time.
you were Troy Bolton from High School Musical, is what
Yeah,
it sounds
exactly.
like.
I was actually joking about that with someone a while ago, that we should recreate that music video because we're near the golf course at SF
Oh,
State, which was
oh
pretty
wow.
funny. But I
There's
don't
a
know if that'll
golf
come to
course.
fruition. Yeah, isn't there a golf course next near the school? I believe there
That's
is one.
that's amazing. I have to go check it out. And obviously I'll help you shoot that recreation of that video
Yeah,
because
we'll see if what the budget looks like for that. But no, yeah, I was a student athlete, and also a theater kid, and eventually once I got towards college or towards the end of high school, I wasn't really interested in playing baseball much more, especially because just the amount of effort I think it took for me to like physically pull myself out of the house and to go out into a cold, rainy field for like 6 hours every day was just too much for me. So I wanted to find something that could fill my competitive drive, and that was esports or video games. And the video games was something that I discovered after I was basically introduced to the internet with my parents, like getting one of the original Macs, whatever, and they're like, do whatever on it. And I was like, okay, cool. And I slowly discovered more and more video games that slowly more and more got competitive or interesting to me. And so I guess the best way for me to describe esports is just like any other professional sport you may watch, like baseball, football, soccer, whatever it is, and you see it produced at a high level on TV, whether it's on a streaming service, or just any news TV channel. It's athletes who compete in various titles, various video games, just as the different traditional sports, who are happen to be part of the top 1%, who are good enough to be paid to compete just due to their natural talent and ability. And they compete across various leagues, whether it's domestic or international. Just like, the World Cup that's happening right now,
Mhm.
most major esports events are accumulation of a bunch of teams from various countries all playing at once to just say that they're the best. And whether that's a massive multiplayer 5-on-5 game, strategy game, a shooter game, there's all sorts of titles for esports. It's really just a like complete rabbit hole once you dive into it and how many different games there are competitive titles for. But to sum it up, basically, it is the exact same thing as traditional sports, just video games on a computer. People are probably not running around. They're probably sitting down on a computer or on a console. So they're using like a controller or a keyboard, and they just compete to be able to say that they're the best. And millions of people watch it, and it's starting to dwarf the traditional the viewing numbers of traditional sports at this point, which is very exciting.
Oh, yeah, no, it's definitely growing and growing and gained a lot of popularity recently. And so it's very, I was also a theater kid, by the way. So now I can really see your competitive sports energy and then like your love for, production, whether that, stage production and all that. And it kind of came together for you. How did you kind of um get into this field, outside of, just loving it, but really getting into it? Can you tell us more about how you landed that?
Yeah, for sure. So for context, I think we're alluding to the fact that I directly work in esports, and I work
Yes.
as a producer or technical director or editor. I basically swaps every week, like what I'm doing. Um, But the reason I got into esports and I'm actually able to be part of the industry is due to the college club here, actually at SF State, known as the Gaming Gators, which is the home of esports and gaming here at SF State and is one of the largest clubs at the school, which is surprising because most people don't know what it is. But there's like over 2,000 members in it, which is ridiculous. And I used to be the former president of that club, but I stepped down this year to focus on finishing my last semester and focusing on my internship and work before figuring out whatever's happening next year. But through that club, originally when I joined my freshman year, is I joined as a player to play and compete under the title of, or the video game League of Legends, which is the most popular, one of the most popular games and esports in the world. And I decided that I was quote unquote good enough to play at that time at a whatever competitive level was available. And I decided to play as a player for my freshman year. And I eventually was asked if I wanted to manage or coach the team, which I decided to do the next semester. And then eventually after that, the president at the time, his name's Austin Oliver, who currently works at Evil Geniuses as a data scientist or data analyst, I believe, um,
Yeah.
is let me know that there's a position available at Evil Geniuses to work in production or just to get my foot in the door basically at esports. And without a doubt, I was like, there's no reason not to take this. Like I'm
Yeah.
just doing this for fun at the moment. Why not get paid to do it? And so sorry, I kind of jumped a little bit there, but I was after being the manager and stuff for the team, just like any other sport, like any other like college sport is still produced and live streamed online or on TV for people to watch, depending on how big the game is. And I was like, I want to do the same thing for my team, or for my games. I would want my friends want to watch me play, and there's no way for them to watch me play if I don't like stream it directly to them or have some sort of way that they can like tune in. So let me just start producing these games myself. So I started to figure out how to produce online from the comfort of my own home, and just watch various YouTube videos where, of course, most people learn most of their life skills or just anything is from YouTube University. So
Absolutely. Yes.
just through trial and error, I just slowly started teaching myself how to produce online. And eventually, I guess I got good enough that people were interested in paying me to do such. And from that experience, through being a player in the club and my previous experience being a lighting and audio tech in a theater production, I was able to combine that together and figure out how to basically run my own shows through from my apartment. And then eventually I applied to Evil Geniuses and was able to beat out all the other applicants. And they're like, let's give you a chance. And then that's where 2 years went. And so I've been there for the past 2 years as like I said, a producer, technical director, editor, reviewer, whatever it is. And so it's been a fun past 2 years figuring out this brand new space of entertainment because this is still in its infancy. Even though esports is as big as it is, and even though it may start to dwarf some of the traditional sports and viewership, it is still very, very new. And just like kind of like anything else, we're all still figuring it out, and we don't know where it's going to go, but it's exciting.
No, I
And
was gonna
I'm
say
here
that
for the
is
ride.
very exciting. And that's incredible too. Kind of used your passions and then, got involved on campus and, you meet people and eventually that led you to what you're doing right now, which is
Yep,
super
connections are important, people. Remember that. Even through
absolutely.
college, anywhere it is. Like a friend could be like your next boss or coworker or lead you to like your next fortune. You never know. So,
You never know. That is so true. And I actually have a question. It's really cool to hear that. I mean, YouTube has everything. But what is the application that you used or you learned about on YouTube of like how to produce it, from your home?
yeah, so my previous experience was just like editing through like all the various like editing programs through like Premiere, or, like Sony Vegas or iMovie, which I think we all started off with. Um, but the specific program I use is called OBS, or Open Broadcast Software, which I think a lot of people might be familiar with if you happen to be in the production space. And so it's basically like the stepping stone, or I guess like the kind of the standard for live streaming that a lot of people will use. I mean, there's various options such as Streamlabs OBS or like vMix, which is like $1,200, and I definitely did not have $1,200 at that time, so I was definitely not going to start off with that. But OBS is a great way to start if you're interested in producing online. Whether it plus it has like a recording feature as well. So there's pretty much whatever you want you can do with it since it is open broadcast or open software. There's a bunch of plugins and stuff like that you can download for free. And so, for example, like if you're like me and you're working from home and you don't have like a full production studio to work from, you can download plugins that will automate a lot of those features, such as like replay or like EBS or something like that. Usually you have someone like in the control room that's like manually rewinding the tape and like doing all that. You can simplify that with just a plugin that you can download for free. And I think that's why I gravitated towards OBS because of all the options that it offers. And there's just I'm still learning like pretty much every day still. Like even though I've been technically doing this for like 2 years at this point, it still feels like I just barely started because of how much I learn every day with a new YouTube video or like a coworker or somebody's like, "Did you know you could do this?" Or and I was like, "I absolutely did not know you could do that." And here's another thing I just learned. And so, open broadcast software is where you want to start if you want to learn how to broadcast online, whether it's yourself, tournaments, whatever, bigger leagues, and literally anything you want to do online, you can do it through that program. I know somebody who like exclusively does every single piece of their job through OBS, and they like edit videos and like do all sorts of other stuff, and it's just like the possibilities are endless, which is great. And there's always new updates to it. And so as long as people are still caring about updating the software and creating new plugins, it's just like YouTube and any other like platform. It's going to be around like forever, and there's only going to be more and more added to it, which is very nice. And
That's
it's free. Can't really be free. So
amazing. I love free things, so it sounds like, if you're interested in this field, you can download OBS and practice that skill, get involved with different organizations on your campus, or if you're at SF State, you have what is it called again? Remind us.
it's called the Gaming Gators here at SS State.
Gaming
We're not
Gators.
specifically affiliated with the school yet.
Oh, I
Um,
see.
which is a fun kind of gray area because not to like put down any of our other sports teams, but we are by far the most successful when it comes to like achievement wise. Like one of our teams is the best in California for Overwatch specifically. We beat out every other CSU. And we've even had teams be traveled out to different places to play. Like we were invited out over to Fresno to play live on TV there, and we just got invited out to Irvine uh, actually I think a few weeks ago when we played there and we placed top four in another game known as Rocket League. And so it's very funny that we're in this gray area of not really being part of the school, but also like representing the school to a completely new level that their other sports teams have not been able to hit yet. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with any other sports team at all because at least for me, like coming from the background of being a traditional athlete over to a gamer, I understand both sides of the spectrum. And
Mhm.
so esports, like I said, to be in its infancy and new, the school isn't exactly sure where to put us or like how to understand what we do. But they'll like ask us to do various things, which is funny because they realize that we're here, but we don't exactly have that support yet. And so next step is hopefully to get that support for all our student athletes because we have over 150 players at this point. We have over 150 players and staff that compete in all the titles through the year round. And I think that's larger than most teams or other clubs or sports clubs specifically.
Yeah.
And so we'll see where that goes next year. But
Amazing.
it's a completely different world, which is pretty fun.
That is, and I'm so glad I get to talk to you because I know I've heard of the club. I didn't know too much about it, and now I know there's like 150 people involved, and top one of the tops in
Yeah, those are just the players. We still have like
wow.
2,300 or 2,400 members or 27. I forgot. I haven't checked in a while, but there seems to be new people all the time.
Basically a lot, and that's incredible. And thank you so much for, just sharing more of your background, how you got started, and all those resources too for, anyone who's interested or, you know, learning about this for the first time. And I'm excited to see, not, where the field goes and how it grows, but also what you're gonna do next as you're graduating and figuring all that stuff out. Well, yeah, thank you so much for sharing your time. And question, tell us, how can we watch the shows that you produce?
Yeah, so I've
Yes.
actually gone freelance in the last month or so. Being at Evil Geniuses for the past years has taught me a lot. Been given a lot of great opportunities, such as like working with DJ Khaled or like Megan Fox randomly on producing some random LG show. I've done some ridiculous things in the past years that would not have been availables or options without being able to work at EG. So I'm very thankful for them giving me an opportunity and taking a chance on me for the past 2 years to basically like steer the ship. But now that I've gone freelance, all my stuff is, I'm not really sure where I'll go next. I'm excited for that though. The glass is half full. And so if you want to find me, I guess unless Twitter dies. I hope Twitter doesn't die.
Oh my gosh.
But
Yeah,
you can
I hope
find me on Twitter. My ID is retro4214. That's pretty much what I go by online for the most part. It's very funny because even in class or certain classes, some of my professors will say retro instead of over Alejandro, and I've just gotten used to it at this point. Same thing
oh
with the
wow.
club. If I run into people from there, so if you just look that up, you'll probably either find my Twitter or my old YouTube from when I was like 14 years old. So either one works. But you'll be able to find all my work there. And if you want to stay tuned for whatever happens next year, I'll be sure to. I will definitely be posting whatever happens because I post too much on social media anyway.
That's
So
great. You share your story, and that's wonderful. And
yeah,
thank you for sharing your story with us today.
yeah, of course. Thanks for having me on.